Hey guys, what's going on? Colby here from DishyTech, and I've got a brand new Starlink here. This is the new Starlink Standard 4 kit. This is the new configuration that's available from Starlink. For the past couple of years, we've just had one option, which is it was previously known as the Standard Gen 3 kit. This one's new though, it's the Standard 4. This is the base model equipment that comes with the, oops, I gotta flip it over here. Starlink Standard 4. This is the base model equipment that comes with the residential 100 megabit per second plan in the United States where I live. So just got this today. As far as I know, there's not any other unboxing videos on YouTube yet, so I wanted to break this thing open, show you what all the new stuff is about, show you all the differences between the regular, or I guess I should say the renamed Standard Gen 3 kit, which is now known as the Standard 4X. So again, this one is the Standard 4, base model equipment. The other one is the Standard 4X. So let's go ahead, get right into the unboxing. Starlink products, as usual, pretty good unboxing experience. You just take these little strips off. They have perforations so you can tear them easily. And as soon as I say that, of course, it fails on me. Okay, well, that was awful. I apologize for that, but let's see. Let's try to get this lid out of the way. Let's just do it like this, shall we? Okay, so first thing in the kit, which is already quite dusty from the box, but this is the actual antenna. This is not new. This is the same model number. This is the, let me double check here, UTA232, which I've already confirmed is the exact same antenna model number as the previous standard equipment. It's also the same antenna as the Standard 4X. So you're not getting a different antenna. Everything is identical in this department on the Standard 4. Of course, with the standard antenna, you have the removable kickstand. You just lift up on this tab and it pulls out. Just like that. And that reveals your Starlink cable connection point. It also reveals some of the information like your serial number and model number, all that sort of stuff. That is the standard antenna. Again, nothing new there. Same version 4, otherwise known as Generation 3 antenna that we've had for a couple of years now. So I'll set this aside and move on to the rest of the kit. Starlink typically gives us a little information placard in the kit. So this tells you all of the basic steps to get this online, how to hook it up, how to install your router mini, how to hook up the power supply, all that good stuff. It's got a QR code that you can download the Starlink app so you can use the app to get your system up and running. And of course, one of the Easter eggs on this placard right here is the date. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it says 420 on the time. I said date, I meant the time on the phone there. That's kind of just a little hidden joke. And this is the back side of it showing what's in the kit. Starlink standard with everything in the kit. And now we get to the good stuff, the stuff that's actually in the kit. We have, let's start with the cable. Cable is not that exciting. Again, this is nothing new. This is the same cable that we've had for a couple of years now with the standard kit. It's a 50-foot cable. They have a 150-foot option in the Starlink shop. On both ends of the Starlink cable, you have what Starlink calls the Star J45. It's an RJ45 connector with their special little moisture seal on the ends. So you get a 50-foot cable. One end plugs into the Starlink antenna, as I showed you the port there, and the other end plugs into the power supply, which we'll get to in a second. So that's the cable. We'll go ahead and knock out the other cables as well. So this is the Ethernet cable. This is going to be one of the first differences for the Standard 4 kit compared to the Standard 4X kit, because Standard 4 kit comes with a separate PoE power brick, which we'll talk about next, But let me get through the cables first. This is the cable that goes between the router, which is your router mini, and the power supply brick. So it's just an Ethernet cable. Again, it's got a standard RJ45 on this end, and then the Starlink specific RJ45. I'll call it the Star J45 on this end. And this is, I believe, let's see if it lists the distance here. I think this is just about 15 feet or so. It's not very long. And then you also have an AC power cable. So this is what plugs into your power supply brick that supplies power to the dish and to the antenna. So on one end, it's got, hopefully that focuses, this style of connector that goes into the actual power brick. And then you just have your typical North American AC wall plug on the other end. Again, this is just a few feet, maybe 6 feet or so. Okay, now to the interesting stuff. Let's start first with the router mini, the router that's included in the kit. It comes with a little stand. This can be used to wall mount with these holes, or it can just be used as a typical stand here. You just push it in like that, and now you can set your router mini on a table, or you can, like I said, wall mount it. But this is interesting because this is the really main difference between the standard 4 kit and the standard 4X kit. So the standard 4 kit comes with the router mini. It covers about half as what the Gen 3 router, which has now been renamed to router 3 in the standard 4X kit, covers. So this has less Wi-Fi coverage. It is still Wi-Fi 6. It is still mesh enabled, so you can add additional router minis or maybe even an older Gen 2 router or a router 3. You can add additional mesh routers if you need to extend your Wi-Fi coverage if a single one of these isn't enough. It's powered via PoE from the power brick, so it's got 2 Ethernet ports in the back. One of them is going to be from the power brick, the one that's on your left, and then it's labeled number 2 here on the right is going to be your connection to other devices. Like if you have a hardwired device or like a network switch or something else that you want to plug into your local area network, you can use that plug on the right. We have a factory reset button, and then we have a DC power port. So this is the one that's included in the standard 4 kit that I just bought. Here's another one that I've had. The router mini has been available for a while, but this is another one that I've had, and it looks to be a little bit different. So I want to show you the back of the old version first, and hopefully you can make that out. But it has a little graphic of an antenna on the port on the left, and then a LAN connection graphic on the port on the right. Also on the power input, it's different. This one has a 9 volt at 1.6 amps input, and that's from this little DC port right here. So this previous version was not PoE compatible. It could not be powered via power over Ethernet, which is quite interesting because the new one is. So let me put this back. And then we can compare the label that you just saw on the old one to the new one. Try to get that to focus here. So now it's changed. It's just labeled 1 and 2. And we also have some additional specifications printed on the back. So we can see it is the exact same router number. So this is UTR-251. And this one is also UTR-251. So same model number, that hasn't changed, but what has changed is they've added some new specs. So now the input is labeled as 9 to 24 volts DC. So they've increased the input range for this DC input port if you're going to use it as a standalone mesh node and not part of a standard 4 system. But they've also given it some PoE input numbers. So we can see PoE input on number 1 and number 2. That's interesting. They're both 57 volts at 0.3 amps. So PoE capable on both of these ports. I wonder then if, since that's the case, maybe it doesn't matter which side that you actually plug into the power brick, which we'll get to next. So that's your router. The part that I'm most interested about, and the reason ultimately why I bought this new kit, is because of this power brick. So this is fairly unique in the Starlink world. So we've had, like I mentioned before, the standard kit, the Generation 3, version 4, sorry, kit, the antenna, has been out for a couple years now. This is brand new though, this little PoE separate power brick. It only comes in the standard 4 kit at the time that I'm making this video. And this is unique in that it has 2 PoE output ports, one to power the dish and one to power the router. And this is your AC power connection on the other side. But let me just look at the model number here on this one. This is a UTP253L on the number here. And we've got, you know, the typical AC input voltage. And we've got, okay, identical PoE outputs on both ports. That's one of the big questions that I was wondering. So it's labeled again 1 and 2. They're not labeled on here, but it's labeled on the back. Output 1 is 57 volts, 1.75 amps times 2. And then output 2 is the exact same thing, 57 volts, 1.57 amps times 2, and a total maximum output of 195 watts. So we will confirm this when we actually go to set this up and do our initial speed test and everything, but I think that these ports are basically interchangeable. It doesn't matter which port you plug into the dish and which port you plug into the router. I brought a few things to compare with this standard 4 setup. First of all, I wanted to show you the difference between the standard 4 kit and the standard 4X kit. The standard 4X kit comes with this. This is now known as the Router 3. This is the previously known Generation 3 router. And it's a lot different than the Router Mini in that it covers more. Starlink quotes it around 3,300 square feet of Wi-Fi coverage or so. But it's also unique to the standard 4 in that this is also the PoE injector for the antenna. So the way that this hooks up compared to the Router 4, this is your standard 4X power supply. It's got an AC plug on one end, and then it does its thing, converting AC to DC voltage in the power brick, and it outputs 57 volts DC on this little DC plug right here. This plugs into the back of the Router 3, like this. And then your antenna plugs into this port right here. These are 2 LAN ports, Ethernet ports that you can use for your devices, but the antenna plugs in right here. You can see that's a lot different than the standard 4 setup, which uses this PoE power brick, one for the router, one for the antenna. It's actually more similar to a previous Starlink generation. So the original round circular Starlink dish shipped with this power supply right here. And if you can notice on the camera here, it looks pretty familiar, right? So we have a router PoE port on your right and then a antenna port on your left. And that's the exact same configuration as with the Router 4 power supply. And then on the other side, you just have your AC input port. So very interesting that this is included. Again, this is the primary reason why I bought this kit. I wanted to test this out for my own application. Personally, I think the standard 4 kit is the way to go, simply because you get this kit. You get this separate PoE power brick. This is in my opinion, a much more premium feature, something that is desirable if you're going to be using a third-party router or third-party network equipment. If you're just going to be using the Starlink router, I don't think it makes as much of a difference to have this, although it's definitely going to be easier to replace and troubleshoot problems with either the power supply or the router if the power supply PoE injector is not built into the router like it is on the standard 4X kit. So that's the unboxing of the standard 4. There's just some regulatory notices in here, but otherwise that is it for the kit contents. Let's go ahead and set it up and I'll show you all the connections and we'll run a quick speed test, get this connected and get everything up and running. All right, I'm outside now. Let's get this standard 4 kit all hooked up. And the first step is to download the Starlink app. Starlink app is how you manage your system. It's how you set everything up. And the first thing you want to do is find a good spot, and the Starlink app can help you with that. So I'm just going to be installing it right in my yard here as a temporary installation just to show you how all this is hooked up. But you may have a roof install, you may have other circumstances, but either way, you're going to start set up with the app. So go ahead and open up the app, hit the start setup button, It's going to ask you which model of Starlink that you have. We have the standard dish. So I click confirm. It's going to tell you to find a best spot. You need a clear view of the sky for your Starlink. So if you hit this find a location button, you're going to go over where you want to roughly install Starlink. I'm going to hit yard and outdoors. I'm going to hit continue. And then it's going to tell you find an open area and then point your phone at the sky. It's going to use your phone's camera to kind of scan a location and make sure that your area has a clear view. So I'm going to go out, walk out into my yard here a little bit where I'm going to be temporarily installing my Starlink, and I'm going to click continue. It's going to kind of have you play a little game, and the idea is you'll want to scan all the little dots in the sky. I won't do it because I don't want you to get sick here on the video, but you scan all the sky and it'll give you a result after you're done. So it's telling me my yard is an okay spot. Ideally, you want no obstructions like trees. It looks like my garage, my detached garage here to my right is part of the issue, and also the tree line in the back. This is fine, we're just doing a temporary setup. So I go ahead and click done. I have a clear view. I'm going to tap that. It's going to talk to you about installing different mounts. Let me make sure my brightness is up. Yep. I'm going to go ahead and hit continue with kickstand since we're just doing it in the yard here. And it's going to tell me to plug all my stuff in. So this is where we need to plug in our actual Starlink, and this is where we start connecting cables. So what you want to do is grab your dish. This is the standard dish. And go ahead and grab your cable as well. Let's go out into the yard here and we'll install our Starlink dish. So flip your Starlink dish over and then lift up the kickstand here. You'll take either end of your Starlink cable, doesn't matter which, and plug it into the port. You can take the kickstand off if it's easier for you to see, but you don't necessarily have to. You just have to be able to get the Starlink Ethernet cable in there, tab side up. It just presses right in there, and you can tell that it's fully inserted if the waterproof seal is flush with the surrounding plastic. So once our Starlink cable is plugged into our antenna, we can flip it over with the kickstand deployed, and now it's ready to go for a on-the-ground install. We take the rest of our 50-foot cable and we take it back to wherever we're going to be putting our router. In my case, it's just out in my yard, so we're going to go right here. Okay, so next we need our power supply. So we're going to take our Starlink cable, plug it into either one of the PoE ports on our power brick. Doesn't matter which one. And you can see it's plugged in there. It's nice and flush. That means we're fully seated. Next, we have to plug in our router. So this is our router mini. We'll go ahead and set it up on the little stand, just like that. And we'll hook up router mini with our router Ethernet cable. So this cable has two ends. One is a standard RJ45, and the other one is this Starlink RJ45 with the waterproof seals. We'll take the standard end, plug it into either port 1 or port 2, it doesn't matter, on the router mini. And we'll take the other end, plug it into our power supply, if this router will cooperate. There we go. Again, doesn't matter which port you plug in the antenna or the router, so we'll just choose the other one. And now we're hooked up. The final step is to plug in the AC power cable. So we'll plug this end into the power brick. A little bit hard to push that in there, but it does go in. Doesn't matter which way you have it pointed. And then the other end we plug into a standard AC power outlet. I just have an extension cord here, so I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. We're looking for lights on the PoE power brick. So I am outdoors in the sun, so this may be hard to see, but there are two lights. We're looking for steady white lights. That means we're good. We've got Starlink devices plugged in, and we're receiving power. We're also looking for a status light on the router mini, which I see right there in the bottom left. That means we're booting up. So all is looking good there. Our system is now fully connected. Let's go back to the Starlink app and click My Starlink is plugged in. It's telling me to connect to the Starlink Wi-Fi network. So I connect to the Starlink Wi-Fi network. It doesn't have a password on it by default. And then I can go back to the Starlink app and it will allow me to proceed. It says Starlink paired successfully. Your device is connected to Starlink. Next, let's get your Starlink connected to the internet. Optimize your setup. Hit continue, and you can see that it's now searching for satellites. It'll take it a few minutes to boot up and fully connect to the satellites. So just give it a few minutes, and the next step we'll need to do is determining alignment and make any adjustments as necessary. While you're waiting on Starlink to connect, you can go ahead and set up your Wi-Fi password. So it says right here, Wi-Fi not configured. If you tap the configure button, you'll be able to set up your own network name and password, securing your connection so that only authorized devices can use your Starlink's connection. It's also worth mentioning that if you haven't already, go ahead and sign into the Starlink app. You may be greeted with a message saying Starlink is not on this account if you're not already signed into your Starlink account in the app when you start this setup. So take the time right now to go ahead and sign in if you're not already. Okay, we're finally online. It took about 5 minutes or so for it to finally get connected and everything and determine my alignment. So you can see now in the graphic here, we have our Starlink dish, we have our router, everything's good to go. We are online. The alignment, I didn't get the message about the alignment. If you go down here and tap on alignment, you can see that my Starlink is aligned out in the yard there. If an adjustment is necessary, it will tell you in the app and you can just follow the on-screen instructions to rotate it to the proper angle for an optimized connection. Let's go ahead and run a speed test just to make sure that's working okay. Remember, this is the residential 100 megabit per second plan, so this is not going to be spectacular or anything. We're just going to get around 100 megabits per second down. But it's good to run a speed test to make sure that your connection is good. So we hit 99 megabits per second down, 54 megabits per second up, and 27 milliseconds of latency. So right where we would expect Starlink to be on this plan. And it's downloading a software update for the antenna. But that's it, that's all there is to it. Just a simple setup here with the standard 4 kit, just your power supply brick, which I love this thing. This is an awesome addition. I wish every Starlink kit would ship with this thing. Router mini, it's going to be enough for smaller households. I've tested this in the past. I've got a dedicated review on the router mini, and in that video I tested the Wi-Fi coverage of this in my own home, just running a single router mini throughout my 2,000 square foot home, and it does a great job. I'll link that video in the description below if you want to see more about how this covers a house. And obviously right now we're just doing a temporary setup in the yard. You may be needing to mount your Starlink to your roof. I do have a bunch of tutorials on that runs through the whole installation process from the mount to running the cable. So whether you're doing the wall mount or the ridgeline mount or the pivot mount, doesn't matter. I'll put some links in the description below to some of those tutorials and reviews so that you can get an in-depth instruction set on installing your Starlink on a roof. If you have any questions on the Standard 4 or anything Starlink related, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to help you out and chat with you. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss any of my future videos. Make sure you like and share this video with your friends and family who may be interested in Starlink. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.